Thank you for joining me today for Equipped for Email Effectiveness in the Office. And I hear many of you groaning as I start, because email overwhelm is huge, and not only in the office setting, but also in the home setting. So the first thing that you might be able to do is designate. Now, some of you may know that as foldering. I heard that in one company. That's what they call it, foldering. I call it designating, which means that you may be able to set up emails by category, by priority, by action, by sender. For example, I know that I am signed up for a number of different newsletters, and I actually have them go straight into a newsletter folder. They don't go into my inbox. They go into a newsletter folder, so that when I get the time, because these aren't the important ones, when I get the time I can read them, or when it gets really big I can start deleting them. When I served on the board of an association, I had all the emails from the other board members go into a specific folder for the board, so that I could just once a day or every other day do all of that stuff at once for the board and not get quite as distracted by it while I'm doing other things. Now, I'm not suggesting that you set up 20 different folders to designate to, because then all you have is nothing in your inbox and everything in folders. But if you do it for just a few things, you will find yourself more efficient as you go. And you can also, for some people, you might think of this as filtering or diverting. So, you know, do you want things to go somewhere else? Do you want some things to go straight to the junk folder? Especially if it's something that you can't actually get off of. Detach is another email tool. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but often you can detach any attachment and then file it somewhere else on the computer so that it's not in your email. In fact, a lot of times you get attachments and the email itself doesn't really tell you anything. All the information you need is in the attachment. So there's no need to leave it on email and have it there cluttering up your email. Another thing is to develop two different things. One is stock responses to routine questions. So if you get people that are always asking the same type of questions, open up a Word document, type up a nice little answer, and then every time you get asked that question, you can do a copy and paste. If you need to tailor it a little bit, you can, but otherwise you're not reinventing the wheel every time, and so you're saving yourself time and energy. The other thing is to develop a signature line. On most email software, you can develop a signature line, which means, like for me, I have my name, the company name, the phone number, and a couple other little pieces of information. In Outlook, for example, not Outlook Express, but in Outlook, you can actually develop multiple signatures for multiple accounts out of the same email client. In Lotus Notes, you can develop a signature. So check with your email provider and see, and then that way you don't have to type. Even if it's just like for my personal email, it just says Janice, but it means I don't have to type Janice every time. So it saves me the 5 keystrokes every time. So that's a good thing to develop. Another D word for our email tools is to drop. Drop that email alarm. Drop the thing that comes up and says you have a new email, whether it's just visual or auditory. Because if you're working on something else and it comes up, most likely you go to the email, which means you stop what you're doing. And then you get all tied up in all the email, and then you forgot what you were doing, or it may take you a while to get back to it, or when you get back to it, it's going to take you a while to figure out where you were in it. So decide several times a day to check email. Now, some of you are groaning. I can hear it. It is very hard to set up, say, 2 or 3 or 4 times to check email, but you will be much more efficient if you do that than if you respond every single time. So any steps you can take, because obviously I've given a lot of different steps here, and you can't implement them all at once or you'll be overwhelmed with step implementation rather than emails. So any step you can take will help to decrease that email overwhelm and will help you to methodically process what is left.